Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the thriller horror films from 2025, titled Hallow Road. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens around 2 a.m. in a house, where we see dinner left untouched on the table, and broken glasses scattered across the floor, implying a heated argument that erupted earlier. Moments later, we see a woman named Maddie sleeping peacefully, but she awakens to the chirp of a smoke alarm with low batteries. She gets up to investigate, and soon finds her husband, Frank, fast asleep over his desk in the other room. Later, while Maddie is replacing the batteries, she suddenly gets a call from her daughter, Alice. Maddie is disappointed in her daughter, who stormed off in the night with her dad's car. Soon, Frank also wakes up and asks about Alice, but the call abruptly cuts off. Both parents are worried, so Maddie calls back right away to ask if Alice made it safely to her apartment. But the girl shocks her by revealing that she's been in an accident. A panicked Maddie inquires whether Alice had called the authorities or an ambulance. Alice says she did, but she hung up on them to call her mother, who is a paramedic. Upon hearing this, the couple begins to freak out, and gets ready to leave the house to find her. Alice informs them that the ambulance will take 20 minutes to arrive, and that she's currently on Hallow Road in Ashfolk Woods. Frank then puts the destination into the car, but realizes it will take about 50 minutes to get there. They put Alice on the loudspeaker, and we soon find out that she hit a girl, who seems the same age as her. Even worse, the girl is unresponsive and bleeding, with her eyes wide open. So Maddie calms her down, and teaches her step by step how to perform CPR to get the girl to respond. Alice follows everything her mom says, but no matter what, the girl isn't responding. And then they hear this.
Oh, she went with a trepidation.
What was that? What is it? What happened?
A loud cracking sound echoes, and Frank anxiously asks what happened, so Maddie assumes her rib must have fractured, and this is not uncommon in such a situation. Here Alice cries out in panic, and reveals that the girl's chest is caved in, so Frank urges her to leave it and go back to the car. Maddie strongly insists the girl could still be alive, but Frank believes otherwise. He again orders Alice to go to the car, and the terrified girl sobs and apologizes before abruptly hanging up the call. Next, Frank tries to call his daughter, but she doesn't answer, which worries the couple greatly. He then asks Maddie if she believes the ambulance is on its way, to which she replies that the typical response time is 15 minutes. Maddie looks very upset, so Frank apologizes, saying he was just worried about their daughter's well-being, and didn't want to traumatize her further. Shortly after, they call Alice again, and this time she answers and reveals that she's now back in the car, which is stuck in a ditch. Maddie then asks if the ambulance has arrived, and if the responder called her, but Alice says no. This confuses her mom, as they should have been there by now, so Frank suggests that maybe they are understaffed. And so, a suspicious Maddie orders her to say exactly what happened, so Alice reveals that she was driving through the woods when the girl suddenly ran out of nowhere. Maddie wonders why she was there in the first place, so Alice explains she couldn't stay at home because of the argument with her parents. She couldn't go to her flat either because her boyfriend, Jacob, would be there, and she didn't know what to tell him. She thus decided to go to Ashfolk Woods, where she and her friends used to hang out when no one was around. Alice further reveals that she arrived 4 hours ago, but fell asleep, and when she woke up, she couldn't find the main road. At this point, Maddie refuses to believe she went to the woods just to take a nap, and asks if she has taken drugs. Frank calls this nonsense, but Alice shockingly reveals she did, and tries to justify it by saying it wasn't even a lot, and everyone in her university does it. Maddie explodes in rage, and she soon figures out that Alice didn't even call the ambulance, or they would have arrived by now. Alice sobs and explains that she believed her mother could save the girl, and she didn't want to get into legal trouble. Here Maddie is unable to comprehend how her daughter could be so reckless, as the ambulance could have saved the poor girl's life. Having had enough, Maddie decides to call the police and come clean about everything, but Alice bursts into tears and says she doesn't want to go to jail. Frank then makes a shocking decision, and says he will take the blame since it's his car anyway. He says they will reach Hallow Road first, after which Maddie and Alice can head home, while he stays behind with the car and the body. Since he is sober, and it's 3 a.m., he thinks the police will understand the reason for his speeding, and the consequences will be less severe. Upon hearing this, Maddie puts the phone on mute, and asks her husband not to do this, warning that his life will be ruined, and the cops could find out the truth. But Frank is confident the cops will believe what he tells them, and he can't let his daughter's future be ruined by some stupid mistake. However, Maddie is shaken by all of this, and claims that no matter what they do, their daughter will be scarred for life.
Dad,
I'm here.
what's happening?
We're not far now. We'll be there with you soon. It'll be okay, Al.
Thank you.
Later, Alice continues to cry over her actions, so Frank tries to calm his daughter, saying it wasn't her fault. He urges her to talk about her university and placement, but she only worries about her boyfriend, which suddenly enrages her dad. He yells that since he is fixing her problems, she has to do exactly what he says, and stay away from Jacob from now on. We then shockingly learn that Alice is currently pregnant, and hasn't even told her boyfriend. Her parents don't support her, which led to an argument earlier, causing her to run away from the house. Maddie then points out that she's too irresponsible to be a parent at the age of 18. At one point, the GPS warns them they're on the wrong road, but Frank thinks it's just malfunctioning and continues that way. Maddie urges him to follow the GPS, and turn back, but Frank insists he's on the right track, sparking a tense argument between them. Just then, Alice shouts that she sees headlights approaching, and thinks it's her parents. But Frank panics as he realizes they're still 25 minutes away, so it's probably someone else. He quickly warns a naive Alice to stop alerting them with her headlights. However, a vehicle soon approaches her, so Frank tells her to drag the dead body off the road. Maddie argues that she can't do that, but he doesn't care, and is driven by desperation to protect his daughter. Under his pressure, Alice reluctantly drags the dead body into the woods so no one can see it. And then all of a sudden, Alice reveals that the girl's face is changing and she's becoming someone else. The parents wonder if Alice is still high, while a terrified Alice tries to run, but a woman's voice suddenly cuts through the night, asking if she's okay. The woman then questions if she's been in an accident, and claims she and her husband can help with her car. Frank tells Alice to make the woman leave, so the girl insists she is on the phone with her parents and she's okay. Regardless, the woman demands to know what happened, so Alice reluctantly reveals she got into a minor accident when a deer ran in front of the road. But the woman responds that there are no deer out here, and suggests it was probably just a runaway dog. She explains that she and her husband saw her car lights flashing. And so, Alice insists she's fine, and on the phone with her parents, who are on their way to get her. Here, the woman suddenly shifts the conversation in another direction, and asks the girl if she knows why this place is called Hallow Road. She explains that it's sacred ground, steeped in myths and old lore. In ancient times, pagans used to honor the fairies in these woods, but now the stories have been reduced to campfire tales told by young people who come here just to get wasted. She then tells Alice that she can see she's intoxicated, and threatens to call the cops and report her. Scared, Alice begs the woman to leave her alone, but to no avail. Having had enough, Maddie steps in and asks her daughter to put the call on loudspeaker. Maddie explains to the woman that her daughter was driving to university but got lost in the woods and crashed. She reveals that she and her husband are just minutes away, and politely asks the woman to leave. Despite this, the woman remains persistent, and asks Alice what she was doing in the woods, looking so flustered. Maddie intervenes and firmly tells her to leave, saying she is making her daughter extremely uncomfortable. Hearing this, the woman asks Alice if she really is making her uncomfortable, which the girl reluctantly confirms. This eventually makes the woman leave, and the sound of her footsteps fades into the distance as she walks away. After breathing a sigh of relief, Maddie urges her daughter to get back into the car and lock the doors. But Alice soon begins to panic again, claiming the woman is in the woods, and seems to have discovered the dead body. Maddie urges her to stay calm, and reassures her that she will call the police, something she should have done a long time ago. However, a panicked Alice starts her car, which is stuck in the ditch, and tries to run away from there. But the woman screams for her to stop, saying they have found the body and she cannot leave like this. Alice refuses to comply, but suddenly, shattering noises are heard, and it seems like the woman has smashed her car window, right when the call abruptly cuts off. The parents frantically try calling again, but there is no answer. Fueled by desperation, Frank decides to speed up to get there as fast as possible, while Maddie once again calls her daughter. This time, the woman answers, and says she has deduced that the parents know about the girl who was hit by the car. The woman calmly reveals that Alice is in her car, and they had to break in to take her keys so she wouldn't hurt herself. To add, the woman finds the whole thing suspicious as the girl's body had been dragged into the woods far, and there are no authorities, just the two parents on the phone. She accuses the parents of acting emotionally rather than logically, and points out how they were willing to let the poor girl die just to protect their daughter. Hearing this, Maddie reveals that she is a paramedic, which is why Alice called her, thinking her mom could save the girl. She didn't know that Alice hadn't called the ambulance, and by the time she realized, it was too late, and the girl had passed away. But in a shocking twist, the woman reveals that the girl is still alive, and her husband is taking care of her. This shocks the couple, and they're more confused to realize that the woman still hasn't called the cops after everything. They want to speak to their daughter, but the woman insists they be honest first, and asks exactly what happened tonight. And so, Frank admits that Alice accidentally hit the girl while driving through the woods, but he was the one who told her to hide the body. He did it because he was supposed to take the blame for the incident, so he could protect his daughter. Hearing this, the woman states that no parent wants to become their child's monster, and say no to them, but when children grow up, it's often too late. She reveals that she and her husband learned this the hard way, and have been paying for their mistakes ever since. Next, the woman finally hands the phone back to Alice and gives her some water, saying she seems severely dehydrated. Alice speaks with her parents, and wonders how she failed to notice the girl was still alive. Frank says maybe she was still shaken by the accident, so she might have convinced herself that the girl was dead. He decides to stick to the plan, and says they will say he was the one driving the car. But Maddie insists it has to be Alice's choice, since she knows what happens when one doesn't face the consequences of their actions. Upon hearing this, Alice breaks down, and reveals how she saw her face in the girl's body, and left her there in panic. She admits that if the girl survives, she plans to apologize to her, and also decides to take full responsibility for her actions. She then asks how far they are, and Frank responds that it's only a few minutes, so Alice says she'll see them soon and hangs up. Shortly after, the couple finally reaches Hallow Road, but they're met with a shocking sight. Alice is nowhere to be seen, nor is the mysterious woman. All that remains is the abandoned car with its windows shattered. The couple soon finds a dead girl lying in the middle of the road, and realizes that the woman lied about her being alive. Maddie immediately calls the authorities and begins explaining what happened, but all of a sudden, a distraught Frank approaches her. With a trembling voice, he reveals that the dead girl is in fact their own daughter. Maddie rushes forward to see for herself, and lets out a blood-curdling scream as the horrifying truth hits her. Regardless, Maddie refuses to believe it's her daughter, and recalls how Alice said the girl's face was changing, and how they even heard some horrible sounds. Frank says it's not possible, but Maddie disagrees and calls her daughter again. To her surprise, Alice answers the phone, and it turns out the woman is also with her. Alice reveals that she is still in the forest, so her parents get in the car and rush to find her. Meanwhile, Alice questions why they aren't going to the hospital, to which the mysterious woman responds that the girl died when she was run over by her car. Alice begins freaking out and asks where her parents are, but the woman reveals that she and her husband are now her parents. She explains that her actual parents don't have the heart to fix her, so her new parents will do it, just like they did for many children before her. A terrified Alice pleads to be let go, just as her parents come across two paths, and don't know which one to take. Here, Maddie sees a red light in the distance and turns left while listening to the woman lecturing Alice. The woman says how parents always try to shield their child from life's consequences, and invent stories to protect them. She asks Alice how far she thinks her parents will go for her, and how long they will continue to drive down this endless road. Just then, Frank and Maddie find the road blocked off by a police car. Frank asks the officers to move, while Maddie pleads with the woman to spare her daughter and give her another chance. But the woman claims it's too late, and when a distraught Alice reveals that she's pregnant, She responds that they will rectify her child as well, before the call suddenly cuts off. The parents, who are trembling with fear, call her several times, but no one answers this time. The next morning, we see police investigators examining the scene, and they conclude that Alice was high, and crashed into a ditch. The disoriented girl then dashed into the middle of the road, where she was hit by someone in the dark. This left the driver panicked, so they hit her body and ran away. One of the officers reveals that the parents are convinced it isn't their daughter, as they were talking to her on the phone when it happened. However, the second officer believes it is simply a trauma response, as they are still struggling to come to terms with her death. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.